All right, let's dive right into this. We've got Adrian Bosman here, and we've got Bryant, the owner of CrossFit Oahu. Thank you
Hello, Pat.
for thank you for joining us. And man, I'll tell you what, Boz said we needed to have you on the podcast, and I generally trust him. And then when I went to your website and I first saw him reading right here, born in Maine, then you went to school in California, so that's just two different worlds right there. Grew up doing gymnastics, wrestling, breakdancing, and watching Jackie Chan movies. I immediately knew why you and Adrian were friends with that eclectic, bizarre background. I was like, that's great. How did you guys connect?
That's a great question. I don't remember the first time that we met. Brian, do you?
Um, no, but it's going to be one of the old school, maybe affiliate Phil Fest or whatever those things were back in the day,
Yeah.
or maybe at a cert or something.
Yeah,
I
it
have
must
no
have been.
clue. Lost
Well,
to
I
the
do,
annals of history.
yes, I do remember some wild times at the 2009 affiliate gathering, but we had met previous to that. I know that I've been to Oahu in 2008 and
Oh,
visited you there. I know that because I took a motorcycle trip with Chuck Carswell, and I was just
oh
looking at
yes.
some photos of that. So it was definitely pre 2008, I would say, maybe even
Yeah.
2007. But
I
anyway,
When
I actually don't remember.
Boz, when was your motorcycle trip with Chuck? Because I remember those photos.
2008, we were out in Oahu, and we both decided to rent motorcycles, and we rode around the island. And yeah, it was great. It was a lot of
No
fun.
way. That was 2008.
Yeah, man. I look at the photos now. I look like I'm 12. It's pretty amazing.
I would have guessed that was like 5 years ago.
No, sir.
Ooh,
Time flies.
that just made me feel that some serious time has gone by. That's insane. Holy
Yeah.
cow. Man, well, we wanted to have you on here because we don't want people to get sick of seeing just myself and Adrian, quite frankly. And on top of that, we want to leverage some folks in the community, especially it could be specialists, trainers, gym owners, et cetera, et cetera. And you fall into several of those categories. And then I did a little digging on your website, and I didn't realize that you guys have been around for 15 years as an affiliate. That puts you in a very small group of individuals. So that was a while ago. How old were you when you started that? I mean, what made you even launch CrossFit and a CrossFit affiliate 15 years ago, where it certainly was not a household name? That's for darn sure.
Oh man. Yeah, I think we were like the 40th something. I mean, I found CrossFit online. As Boz will know, I'm deep online at all points, and I think I found it in 2003 or something, um, and just followed the old school blog that they had.
Hmm.
And back then there was no affiliates, so I was in the military then, and we saw affiliates popping up, and I had to wait to get out of the military to open one. Otherwise, hopefully, I mean, it could have been earlier, but back in the day, there'd be like a post, and some people may know this, but there was a post on a blog, and people would post all the comments, and you'd put your times and things, so people could go back and find all my posts on there. And there was another guy that lived 2 blocks from me, Craig, and it's pretty weird because it's pretty rare back then. But he was doing CrossFit, so we ended up working out in each other's garage, and he was much older than
Awesome.
I was. And he had the bright idea of doing park workouts and stuff like that. And then
Nice.
it just kind of went from there.
So this was way back in the day of like the message boards and CrossFit and that whole other world when the CrossFit Journal would be emailed to you and then you would print it out and staple it and
Yeah.
read it
Oh,
through.
man.
It,
Oh, and
every
everybody had
every
their
week.
they had their little handle on the main site, and it was rare that you'd see somebody's first and last name. It was like they had like some cool tag, and you'd be looking for the people that you kind of knew around your ability level. You're like, oh, so and so, or whatever. And so it was like the early days of the leaderboarding, kind of. Yeah, those are fun times.
Now, I assume over the course of 15 years, there's been some tremendous evolution from where CrossFit Oahu started to where they are now. And I was speaking to somebody the other day about, how these days, I don't know how it got here, but it seems like everyone believes, hey, if I'm going to start an affiliate, I need to start in this megaplex, this huge megaplex with, tons of equipment and debt and a big lease and all this stuff. And I just pray to God that the clients show up and I can cover the note each month. But I don't think people realize back in the day that was not only not how most people started, but it was actually frowned upon, really. I mean, you were supposed to start small and grow. What were the origins of your affiliate and what's been the evolution to today?
Yeah, I don't think you could do that back in the day, because like nowadays, like you could just go buy all that stuff if you wanted to. But if Adrian's talking about like
you had to make your rings back then.
Yeah, no. So so with our rings, we took the Schedule 80 PVC, you pack it full of sand, you duct tape the ends, you put it in the oven, bend around a paint can, and then put a loop through it. That's how we made the rings, and then it would mess up your forearms. But yeah, like you're talking about the message board, I think the owner of Rogue, Bill, has a post on the message board, if the message board is still up, is searchable, when he's talking about building his own pull-up bar before Rogue was a thing. So yeah, everything was built and pretty much DIY, which I just better at my illegal welding for our gym now. But like we pulled out everything to the park every week. Once a week, we'd pull out stuff to the park and we'd get people hyped, and we would just drag out rower. We had a rower, and then every month I just kind of bought or made one piece of equipment. And we've slowly built, I mean, we are that megaplex now in a weird way, but it's been a slow process of all that. And I think it'd be tough for somebody to just, do that.
But so what, you were a young kid, got out of the Army, early 20s, and then started with basically nothing, creating your own equipment, literally started with nothing. How in the world, when nobody knew what CrossFit was, do you get the word out and actually start to get some people to show up to use this homemade equipment? There's a guy, Marcus Didino, which Adrian would know, but we did our first park workout, and I think we stopped 2 people because we brought out everything that you guys would know, like the old basketball filled with sand for a wall ball, like with the crappy shoe goo patch and all that. And we had like
you get sand in your eyes after every successful hit. Like it's just a guarantee. I remember that.
Yeah. And we were doing like handstand push-ups on the side of the back, because our first one was in Kapiolani Park. So on the side of like the bathroom, like the outdoor bathroom is where we were doing handstand push-ups. And I think we stopped 2 people, and they liked it. And then slowly, I think people would look up on the website. I mean, but a lot of times I'd say Craig and I showed up and nobody showed up. But, just after the workouts, we'd go to Jamba Juice, which was cool back in the day. Still cool, probably. But we'd go, and then it's slowly built up from there. We didn't do any, of course, we didn't do any marketing or anything.
It just became a word of mouth business.
Well, Bryant, what I think is so interesting is, you and my other friend, David Osorio, shout out to him. You guys have like my favorite gyms ever. I love visiting both of your places. I don't get to, make it out to Hawaii as often as I used to. I used to do seminars out there somewhat regularly. And the thing that strikes me about both of you guys' places, especially if you go there now and you do have what you say, as the mega facility a little bit, where you've got all the toys, you've got the space, it's clear that you guys are established, but there's still this uniqueness of culture that permeates everything. And I feel that some places that start big, they don't have that. It's a little bit more sterile and a little bit more kind of cookie cutter. It's clear that they're trying to follow along with what they've seen elsewhere. And that's not necessarily bad, but I'm just curious, like, how did you preserve that culture from that early kind of nitty gritty days to present day? And was that something that you actively had to seek out to do? Or is that something that just kind of, happened naturally through the people that you attracted?
Yeah, I think with culture, it should be unique to the owner. But yeah, if you just have like an investor and you're like, we're just going to buy the spreadsheet of stuff, it's not going to be there. But as we built, I like to keep knickknacks. I like to keep stuff like that on the walls, all that stuff to remind people, where we're coming from. So I think a lot of it comes definitely from the owners building it up. I mean, I think I have one of the first printings of the CrossFit shirts from the original gym in Santa Cruz on the wall, and it's framed. So we keep a lot of history stuff like that. I like old books and stuff like that on the walls. Like there's Super Training from the 70s.
Oh yeah.
Which the record of human performance, which has got Man versus Beast in it, which is an amazing book. But you keep all that
book anymore? Is
it
in print? That's the Mel Siff book.
Yeah.
Super. So yeah, I have Super Training too. I meant Super Athletes. There's an even old school hardcover one, but I have the Mel Siff one too. I actually, I mean, if I went around the corner, I have a crazy amount of books, which now coaching knowledge is off of Instagram, but I do love books. But I love checking things. But yeah, no, I think culture comes down from the little things that you do. I stopped at the original CrossFit gym way back in the day. I went on leave, which they finally let me go on leave at some point. I drove from Sacramento to Santa Cruz, and I think it was Brandon Gilliam at the time was closing the gym down, but he probably shouldn't have, but he left me at the gym open until somebody got there the next hour, and I just got to hang out, and they were very friendly. So I mean, all the times I went to the original gym, I kind of remember that vibe. So I think a lot of that vibe of just being friendly and things has kind of percolated through the years as we get more of like an established business.
You know, for people who haven't visited your gym, give us a sense of your community, your people there. You know, some cater to a younger demographic or an older demographic. Some gyms are really into the competitive scene, whatever it happens to be. If somebody was to pop in, you know, what's your community like there?
Oh yeah. So pretty much anybody who wants to come in can join. So I think we have a wide variety. I mean, we have a super strong master's class, which is awesome. Like all the way up to like 70.
Oh,
and I
really?
teach that every weekend. Yeah, I teach that every weekend. I love it. I feel like we're preparing them for battle. I always tell them like, hey, we're preparing you to fight the other masters later. We're going out to the beach under the equinox, you know, like, and we're always training them very hard. But then we do have a huge group of open gym people that are more like have that competitive vibe. So because we are a bigger gym, I think we need to have kind of spots for each person. But overall, it's like a family. They call it Ohana out here. You know, everybody's welcome. We get everybody to talk. There's nobody that just like sits there and scowls and doesn't talk to other people. And from our demographics, it's pretty wide and varied, actually.
And you guys do a really good job of supporting that, as using the gym as kind of like a community center. That's another thing I noticed about, your gym. And a lot of other places do that too. Affiliates do that really well. But like you guys, like the prom that you guys used to host every year, I don't know if you're still doing that. But like you would always have these kind of calendar events that would happen like clockwork that happen, they're away from just people coming in and working out. So it really did transcend beyond that, right?
That's the hardest thing about COVID. I mean, if I shared my screen, I have a year, it's called like a Gantt chart. It like shows when things happen. And week 1 of the year, week 2 of the year. And it's kind of the same, but we always do community events. And when I own multiple gyms, we would have things that we called like 5 gym events or multi-gym events or single gym events. And those are scheduled, and I have strong event plans for those. So we haven't done a community event since COVID, but like our last one that we did, one, that's where you own an affiliate, so you can do whatever you want if you have bad ideas or good ideas. But our last community event was like, I thought about like, what if you rode from Niihau all the way over to the Big Island? So you rode each one of the channels. And then I made I did the Excel spreadsheet and figured out that meters, and we were like 90 days, you can do it with a team or with yourself. And then I made a 4x8 printout, and you'd fill in each square with your partner as you do it. And then COVID stopped that. So we're going to do that. But yeah, we always would do the prom. We would do things called the box jump, which is a play on words where we'd go to different gyms and you'd have to do different workouts with your group.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Murph is coming up. So this year we're doing Murph all split up in times, but normally that would be a big thing. I have tons of community. I mean, yeah, the entire, basically what Adrian's saying, the entire year's planned out for community events. And also on a day-to-day basis, we normally, pre-COVID would just let people hang out there to keep the streets clean.
What's the COVID situation right now? Businesses open, closed, starting to come back. What is it?
Hawaii's been really restrictive. It's coming back. We still have masks on. We still have to do the squares. We're only supposed to teach 10 people classes. So that's the only rule that we teach bigger than 10 people, because we can have we can have open gym people because the rules are kind of weird, but we're still having like 30 people in there with open gym, but because we have the space, it's about 13,000 square feet.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay.
yeah.
So you've got all these cool community events that traditionally you've done. Obviously, probably an understatement to say that COVID threw a bit of a monkey wrench in there. How have you guys pivoted, or what have you found actually works to keep your members still feeling like they're a part of something, like they are in a community with a big reduction in in-person meetings?
Super tough. I mean, when we went on lockdown, I think we're on lockdown. I have the stats, but I think it was like 9 months or something like that. I sent out emails every day to them, and I would make a graphic that looked like a little mini whiteboard, and we put out the WODs and we called it homebody. So we tried to do that. And then we're always thinking of other things. Although not a plug here, I've been trying to stand up to be on the whiteboard here for a while so we can get all that stuff going to have people feel more connected on the day-to-day basis. And we always keep track of people, whether they come to class or not. And we have a really good system of texting people if they've been there a lot and things like that. But it's tough. I think it's tough.
Yeah, one of the things that I think kind of along the same line of, you get these really strong community events, it's obvious that you're doing a lot of creative work to try to keep people in the mix during the COVID times. A lot of that to me speaks to your willingness to try new ideas, good or bad. And that's something I've always really admired about you, is that, you're obviously a creative person, you're intelligent, and you're not afraid to take the risk of like, let's try this thing. And even if it isn't what I hoped it would be, it's worth rolling the dice. Like, can you speak to that mentality a little bit? Like what possesses you to do that?
The double-edged sword. I think anybody who has like an affiliate, you're going to have some really smart people that can be your business advisors. And I was lucky to get a bunch of people like that. They're like my one guy, Gary, is like my older Asian dad. So it's like B- what went wrong. And when you're talking to the business people that see CrossFit more as like the numbers versus the community, I think, yeah, they're going to see a lot of these things and like, why did you do that? But yeah, you want to go out and I think just do fun things. I think part of the reason people like CrossFit is you can go out there and there's dress up outfits, do crazy things. I mean, one of our biggest hits, one of our coaches just had an idea. He's like, can we do bar golf? So he went around testing and he went to 9 different places. He got 3 different drinks for each one. He made scorecards. So one is, I don't really know golf that well, but it's like a par, a birdie, and an eagle. And this is like a harder alcohol. And we had like 50 people walking around Chinatown going to 9 different bars. And then we've done that now in Kaka'ako, and we were going to do that again. And we named them like Big Trouble in Little China, all that stuff. And people dress up. Yeah. So, I mean, all those things are great. I mean, you just got to do it. I mean, it takes effort for sure, but I like it. I mean, if you didn't like it, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. And so I guess like digging into that a little bit more, is that more so, and maybe it's both, but is it more so to keep you invested, as a long time affiliate owner? I think that there's certain people that struggle with burnout. They struggle with like the repetition of, I'm just teaching classes, I'm programming workouts. That's it. You kind of get into this rut. Like, is that as much for you as it is for the clients and the people that are showing up? Or, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess it's internally motivated. I just have these things that I'd like to do if I get it. I mean, when you're talking about like the prom, so Pat, we would just turn the whole gym into a prom. And if it was casino prom, and I mean, we did so many, we did casino 20s, all casino prom, we'd bring in dealers and stuff like that. We would have DJs, we'd have dance floors. I just heard like Time of My Life at 7-Eleven on the thing. And I was like, we should have a prom.
That's
and
awesome.
Then we, then we did it. A lot of the things from a revenue perspective, I think I try to break even on those events. They're not really like profit centers, but I think in terms of part of the thing I think as an affiliate, I try to think of is like when people look back and they're saying that was like the time of my life, that was like the good old days. Like when I try to remind the members, we have like the competitor crew on the side, and it's right now, we've got those certain 7 people that come in and work out an hour and a half every day. like that. And I always tell them, like, you're going to look back and this is like the time, where you guys all had your job off, or you didn't have a job or whatever your hell you're doing, that you could come in for 2 hours. And we're always trying to make that when people leave our gym, because in Hawaii, we're highly transient. I want people to look back and say, well, that was the best time that I had at any of that. Whether it's the classes, the programming, or the events. So maybe that's a big part of it.
Well, okay. So sorry, Pat, go ahead. No. I've been dominating the questions here.
No, I was curious, you've touched on multiple parts, right? So the prom, the going around to the golf course / drinking thing and all that stuff. I mean, all that stuff, that's an interesting kind of glue that makes, you could make a serious argument that going around to the bars is moves people's needle in the opposite direction of their Fran time. But what that does is it creates a tight crew, like a crew that feels this bond, and they're actually, I think the word family gets thrown around too much, but a crew, they are part of the same unit, and there's a bond there. So there's equal parts fitness, there's equal parts bond. There's a gray area in the middle. There's financial decisions you need to make to pay the rent out there in Hawaii. Then there's things that you do where you just hope to break even, like these proms. There's all these different things happening, but somehow you're still in business 15 years later. So whether you're a businessman or not, you must be doing something right. And sadly, I see some people super passionate about CrossFit, and they think that might be enough to sustain a business, yet it's not. There's more to it than that. So do you have some keys? I mean, how have you stayed in the game and run a successful business, kept the doors open for a decade and a half is no small achievement. So what's going on the business side? Was that there from day one, or has that been a trying lesson learned?
No, I can give you some good analogies on this one. And I'm sorry if this doesn't resonate with everybody on this podcast, but, a lot of times growing up, I think of things in like a video game sense, but I actually think I start at very low level on everything, but I'm able to learn anything. So I think most people can, especially with YouTube now. And if you think about somebody who's super passionate with CrossFit, there's an athlete, there's a coach. If you have multiple gyms, there's a manager, and then there's an owner. They're each very different skills, and you have to recognize that. And if you're a CrossFit athlete and you're going in and you're like, oh, hey, I'm doing a bunch of workouts, but my conditioning sucks, then you might work on conditioning, or I can't do double unders, you work on double unders. It takes some self-awareness to say, hey, people aren't signing up. Why are they not signing up? Mm-hmm. I'm always doing bad at my accounting, or I'm always doing bad at, whatever, like scheduling, coaches, or what, there's all these other things. So just like you say, hey, I have a weakness in Olympic lifting, I'm going to go buy these books and learn Olympic lifting. I broke it down to, if you have all these different things that you're going to do for business, you've got insurance, you've got taxes, you've got all this stuff. And I specifically learned over time all of those things. And I studied each one of those things, because you're right. Like, you could be very passionate, but that's definitely not going to work if somebody's very structured. I mean, you look at other gyms that aren't very passionate, like not like they're bad, but like maybe like a Planet Fitness or something. They have tons of people sign up, and maybe people aren't as passionate about that brand as they are as CrossFit. Sure. So how are they doing that? Mm-hmm.
Did you learn those things because you saw the writing on the wall that they were needed to sustain a business, or did you have some scary times where the doors almost closed?
Oh my God, we had so many scary times. Probably right now.
Right.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. To piggyback on that, do you still have the list, Bryant? Tell them about the list.
What's the list? I forgot.
I thought one of your business mentors at one time.
Oh my God, no, the list keeps growing. Dude, I get a list. I love getting these lists. I ask them, like, what did I fuck up on this year? If I can use the language on here. And I have these lists of like my biggest mistakes. Like, I've made so many, like, yeah, I mean, you get better. I try not to make the same mistakes. And I think to answer your question, Pat, is if I see like a mistake that keeps happening, then I try to solve it somehow. Mm-hmm. So I don't have to keep doing that. Because a lot of these owners that you're talking about that are very passionate or get burnt out, they're solving kind of the same problems over and over that frustrate them. Like, if there's no way for you to catch somebody's credit card that's going to expire and then sign it up before you get you know what I mean? Like, then you're dealing with that hundreds of times in a year, and that's going to take your time away. But yeah, we've had a lot of issues. I mean, tons. And I mean, each time you're trying to just solve that problem. But I think people don't get into maybe owning an affiliate to learn that business aspect, which is a good thing, but it's also a double-edged sword, because then you don't realize how much there is to learn.
Right. Yeah, no doubt about it. Boz, I knew I cut you off. Did you have something there?
No, I was just going to add, like, to piggyback off of this idea of you've been in business 15 years, obviously you're doing something right, that you're still able to do it and weather the storm of COVID. I mean, that's not easy when you can't keep the doors open. So what do you have as far as like goals in the short and the long term after being in business this long? Like, is it just more of the same? Do you have any other aspirations or things that you've learned that you'd like to change moving forward? Like, where do you go after 15 years?
Yeah, in terms of the gym, yeah, we always have plenty of goals. I mean, long-term goals is at some point we have to talk with our landlord and figure out like how to pay back all the money that we supposedly owe them. Hopefully they don't see that, but hopefully they don't want everything. But I think we can figure that out. We have a great community once we get that. I mean, in terms of the gym, the biggest thing that we're working on goals right now is like, as soon as people contact us and they're motivated, I don't want us to be the problem that they don't sign up. I think historically for a lot of CrossFits, the sign up process is very hard and the onboarding of the first 100 days is very difficult. So I've spent so much time working on that recently, but yeah, there's always things that we're working on with that. I mean, I think it is tough. I mean, I just want to get stable again in terms of COVID. That would be great. We had a good thing going.
Is there any light at the end of the tunnel as when you get a sense out there that you will be able to open again, or I hate to say, like, back to normal, life will come back?
Oh yeah, we're pretty close. We are open now. I mean, we've been open and it's slowly been building up. I mean, so I think they'll probably change the rules here pretty soon, but I don't try to think about it too much because it doesn't matter. But yeah, we've been open. We have classes, and because we're onboarding people and following up with people so much better. I mean, we're actually getting there under adverse circumstances quite a bit. So
that's great.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is related to what you said about a second ago. You're trying to make your onboard process easier, make it easier for folks to come in and join. You're probably going to have a whole lot of copycats. I'm sorry, but I have to do this. I went to your website. Your website, the landing page on your website is one of the coolest, most fun and inviting landing pages on a CrossFit gym that I've ever seen. There's a cool little animation, like a 3-stage animation. Like, I don't know anything about CrossFit. I've got some experience. I'm just dropping into the island, and you click on one of these fun animations and it takes you where you need to go. There's a 2-minute video, which I watched, that is all about your community and the people going there and their why. And it's fun and it's uplifting. It's people from all walks of life. Your website would make me want to go and want to sign up. Like, it's really, really good. So I encourage everybody watching this or listening, go to CrossFit Oahu's website and just copy it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's fantastic. Has it been like that for a while, or is that one of the things you said you've kind of focused on to make life easier for people getting in the door?
We change our website all the time. So I do our website, and that's part of the problem is I love looking at and I used to have a different philosophy of the website, but our website now, just for people that are thinking about websites, is we want people to be able to get into a class within 24 hours. Because I think about all the things I'm motivated, like, oh, I want to learn InDesign. I want to learn, 3D modeling or SketchUp or something weird. I just want to learn this program. If I don't start it within 24 hours, like, my motivation's gone. So the reason we have that, and hey, when you guys go there, just fill it out with fake names. I'll see all the fake names. Testing the system.
There you go.
But yeah, no, our website is meant to be clear because most people really don't care about constantly varied functional movement, high intensity in the beginning. Mm-hmm. They just want to be like, how do I do this? And we have a lot of visitors. So really, when you see that website, that homepage is like the tip. There you go. The tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
So once they're in our system, we have a lot of ways of segmenting them, getting them the right information. So like if you said, hey, they click in their advanced versus new, they get a whole different series of texts and emails from me based on being advanced versus new. Because advanced people want something different. They also get different landing pages. So when they go fill that out, they get a different landing page based on what an advanced person would want. Our tour of our facility, if people want to do it, it's cfoahu.me/tour. There's a 3D tour and you can click to walk through. Like we talk about the equipment we have. We talk about nobody cares that we have ski ergs if you're new, but advanced people do. Yeah. They care about open gym. So we segment people. Then in our follow-up, our CRM system, then we know who's new, who's advanced, and we start tracking them through that process as they go through trials and stuff like that. So yeah,
I thought it was, for lack of a better, it was just welcoming and inviting, and I hope that we're still friends after I say this next part. And the next part is, as welcoming and inviting as that is, I was actually on the island a few months ago, and I didn't pop into your affiliate. I didn't go to any affiliate. I just worked out at the hotel the entire time for a little vacation. But now it's funny is after going, because there was a nice disconnect from just all things CrossFit for a little while, and now after I clicked on your website, I was like, dang it, that was an opportunity missed. Like these people look cool and fun, and it could have brought the family who would have had a blast. They could have told us the greatest beaches to go to. So I promise you, I won't make that mistake twice. I won't do it twice.
There you go. Now, if anybody is visiting, we have an easy visitor sign up. And what Pat missed, we give everybody a sticker. Give everybody a custom sticker for being a visitor. Look at that giveaway.
Man, dude, you know how much my kids would want a sticker? I mean, come on.
You blew it, Pat.
I did.
We give the kids extra stickers.
I had to, just use Yelp to try to find the best shaved ice place. It was unacceptable. I could have got all the local information, but so... Again,
even if somebody doesn't want to show up at our gym, if they sign up online for that visitor thing, we have a text bot that will give them a menu, and then they can text back to that menu that I programmed to show them the best local places, the best local beaches, the best local hikes. And then they don't even have to show up, but they can get that info.
That's so cool. I love that sort of thing. That's like, again, like this. Well, and just coming back to this, two things that really stand out to me, as I think about it more, Brian. Number one, I love that 24-hour rule that you've got. I think that's super powerful. Like I'm going to adopt that for things in my own life because I certainly am a dabbler. I like to kind of have my mental hand in a lot of different pies, so to speak. And I find that same thing. Like I'll be really excited about something. And then if I don't act on it, it's just going to be set by the wayside. So that's really, really cool. And I love that you've actively crafted your guys' gym around that concept. I'm like, all right, within 24 hours, you're in the door doing something. That's really great. And then the second thing, I love this whole like community givingness. Like it's such a really powerful thing, I think, especially in today's world where a lot of people are just focused on their bottom line. They're like, hey, you don't even have to show up, but here's the cool stuff to do while you're here. That's awesome. I mean, how could people not want to come back and check out what else you've got going on if you're being that forthcoming with things that don't have anything to do with fitness necessarily? I don't know. I love that. I think that extension of culture is really, really cool. So hats off to you, man. That's awesome.
It's funny because like I always feel good when I'm like, did you do Cocoa Head as a hike? And they're like, yeah, that was great. And like everybody out here is like, Cocoa Head's the most basic thing. But every time you tell somebody that's new, they're like, yeah. So feel good with that.
After 15 years in business and we didn't even touch on, if somebody goes to your website and checks out, you might have more courses under your belt, CrossFit courses, specialty courses. I mean, you have dipped your toe in your brain into darn near everything. So when I look at that, and then I look at you surviving 15 years out there as a gym through all the evolution still happening and COVID and all that, if we've got people listening or watching to this that are probably somewhere earlier in their career than you are in their first 5 years, or maybe they just want to open a CrossFit gym and you're a been there, done that kind of a guy, do you have a top few things that you wish you had known, or if you had a mentor or something, when you first opened your door, some pearls of wisdom?
Yeah. at least for us in the beginning, and of course everything changes because the time when I was starting was much different than now. But I think what has allowed me to make all these mistakes and given me the runway to learn all these different things like automating tech systems or whatever, which is way deep down the road, right? Is if you like hanging out with people, and I'm an introvert when I'm not at work. I feel like a stand-up comedian. When a stand-up comedian goes and does their set, they're big, they're bold, they're exciting. And then, but when I go home, I obviously do my own thing. And I'm just like, I don't even have any social media or anything, but like, I think if you are at the gym and you honestly like people, you honestly like fitness, and you take care of people, and you really do, you follow up, you're like, oh, where were you last week? And I always try to say hi and goodbye to people when they're leaving the gym. If you honestly care about people, because people necessarily won't remember. And if we talk about programming one day, like programming is important in a facility, but how they feel when they leave is what's going to bring them back, so that you can get them more excited about, well, this is what jerk blocks are for. You know what I mean? Like they got to feel like, oh, this is a better part of my day than going and watching, The Boys on Amazon Prime or something, because you're competing against a lot of stuff. So how people feel and like you really caring about them, which takes, as a coach, zooming out of the class and thinking about how is the vibe of this class? Is the music good for the class? Are people happy? Have I talked to everybody? Not just like, don't bend your arms on the pole. You know what I mean? Like if you craft a fun environment, people want to come back to you. One, they're going to tell people, they're going to bring it back. And over that time, you can start to learn all the business stuff. At least that's how we did it.
I don't want to derail you there, but there's something cool there that I'm curious if there's something more or maybe not. I absolutely agree, right? And we'll hear that routinely from long-time successful affiliates and great trainers, that you have to care. And if you don't care, you're just spinning your wheels. And usually people can't articulate what that actually means, but you know it when you see it. And you actually articulate it to some degree there quite well. When I was on your website as well, I see you've got a good staff of trainers. If you want to preserve that culture at your affiliate, I mean, can you teach somebody how to care? Do you pre-screen these trainers that they're not only competent, but they care? Like how do you impart that tough to define aspect of caring onto your training staff, or do they show up with it?
That definitely comes from the top as the owner, because I think people will see what you do. And I would rather pick somebody to be a coach generally that has a good personality and likes to talk to people. And then I'll be able to teach them stuff to teach a class, which in terms of like trainer knowledge, teaching a basic good class is pretty doable for most people. And I would do that versus somebody who's highly technical with a kinesiology degree that's doesn't talk to people as well, or like
completely agree.
So that's
a technically proficient class that would bore me to tears and I would never show up again.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you don't keep showing up.
Yeah. That's something Pat and I talk about a lot, is that you can have, keys to success, but the bedrock of all of that is going to be consistency. If you're not there, it doesn't matter how well thought through your programming or your, movement selection or whatever, all of that becomes totally null if you're not there. So what is keeping people there? That's got to be a priority. So
and to go back,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, to not how I normally think, but putting on like my cold hard owner hat in a business, which is different than in a community or like a one-on-one coaching, but in a business, one of the main roles of a coach is to retain members. Anything that you do that doesn't retain members needs to have, and I'm not the best at this, but I try to, needs to have immediate communication about that. Like no coach wants somebody behind their back to be like, as a member, I'm not going to go to their class again. And you'll hear that through the gym. And as the owner, you need to communicate that to the coach immediately. And on the flip side, people should be asking, usually when I teach, like, hey, when do you teach again? Like, then or you should be getting Yelp or Google Maps reviews with your name in it. Those are big things. I always send it out to the coaches when they get that. So we try to catch good behavior.
That's great. So on the flip side of that, like, what is it that you see sometimes, and maybe we've already answered it, but are there certain things that you see newer people, and I'm talking about trainers, that they invest their time in that maybe you think is maybe less useful in the beginning or just a waste of time in general?
I think just realizing what is a class, like there is that technical aspect of the class and the fun aspect of the class. And hopefully there's somebody to help mentor them in, just like, like I said, if you're a stand-up comedian, if your jokes don't hit, it's not that you're a bad human being. It's that you can work on it. So like, if you feel like your class is a little boring, it's not like that's your personality and that's how it's stuck. It's just you work on your class and connecting with people. And how many smiles did you see? Did you actually use the people's names and stuff like that? A bad analogy that I always use is like, if you're running and running through the trench, here we go. Tell me if this is a bad analogy. Running through the trenches in World War II, right? And you're an American soldier running through the trenches and you're liberating France and you shoot this Nazi and you shoot this Nazi and you kick in the door and there's a Nazi behind the desk and you shoot it. Nobody imagines they're the Nazi behind the desk getting shot and just like nothing happened. Like you imagine you're like the hero of your own story. So as a coach, if you're like too invested in yourself, you don't realize that you didn't talk to the quieter member in the back, but she remembers that you didn't talk to her. So you have to be really good to get out of yourself and say, did I communicate with everybody? Did everybody leave with at least one actionable thing that they could work with? Did I say goodbye and hello to them? Did I use names? And those are things that are different than, okay, did the back raise faster than the hips and the deadlift below the knee? You know, that they're very different things. Now, and a lot of times when people are newer coaches, you need to build such a technical knowledge that that's autopilot. Like I can just walk by and just like, oh, hey, don't do that. But then I can build the funness and connect with how does that person want to get communicated to as like a 50-year-old lady that's an office worker that hasn't done it versus this guy that's a 20-year-old college athlete. I can communicate that same coaching cue differently. And that takes a little bit of time to add that layer. But yeah, you need to make sure that you're thinking about how they leave the gym.
Man, that was well said, absolutely well said and articulated. And I think that's a complete bullseye. So let's say somebody is not going to be rude like I was. You know, they're traveling to your area of the world. Let everybody know who's watching or listening. How can they, your website, how can they find you, social media, just all the ways they can get in touch with you and hopefully show up for a class?
Yeah, CrossFitOahu.com. And if you're visiting, there's a little plane icon. Like you said, click on that, fill out when you're going to be here. We'll follow up. And you can easily buy your pass online with Apple Pay or anything like that. Look how easy that is. And if you're going on Instagram, it's CrossFit Oahu Family or Instagram.com/CrossFit Oahu Family. And on Facebook, it's CF Oahu. They're not the same. So it should all be the same, but they're not. We can't go back and change that.
Yep.
No, it's super easy to start like that.
I genuinely appreciate you sharing your time, sharing your experience. I think people are going to get a lot out of this. And I give you my wholehearted promise that the next time on the island, you will see my smiling face.
Yeah, likewise,
awesome.
Bryant. Thanks so much, man. It's always a pleasure getting to chat with you a little bit.
I had a blast. Hopefully we can do it again.